The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus told the disciples this parable. The kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, 5 were wise. The foolish ones, when taking their lamps, brought no oil with them, but the wise brought flasks of oil with their lamps. Since the bridegroom was long delayed, they all became drowsy and fell asleep, and at midnight there was a cry, "Behold, the bridegroom! Come out, meet him." Then all of those got up and trimmed their lamps, and the foolish ones said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise ones replied, "No, there may not be enough for us and you, so go instead to the merchants and buy some for yourselves." And they went off to buy it. The bridegroom came, and those who were ready went into the wedding feast with him. Then the door was locked, and afterwards the other virgins came and said, "Lord, Lord, open the door for us." But he said in reply, "Amen, I say to you, I do not know you, therefore stay awake, for you know neither the day nor the hour." The Gospel of the Lord. Stay awake, be alert, you don't know the hour. Well, there ain't no mountain high enough, there ain't no valley low enough, there ain't no river wide enough to keep me from you. It's an old Motown favorite, covered, I think, by Diana Ross, maybe Marvin Gaye, sung very well. It's a song that, for me, is one about endurance and resilience, about how, in some ways, our relationships should bind us in such a way that they keep us moving ahead together with each other. So nothing can keep me from you. I think that's what goes on in these last readings for the liturgical year. As we move toward Advent, we're looking at readings that keep saying, pay attention, be alert. But also, more importantly, this Sunday's readings are about hope and wisdom. And hope and wisdom are probably the two things that I think I need the most. I like to think that the older I get, the wiser I get, and yet there are any number of times where I'm like, not sure that's what's going on. Because I sometimes do things or say things that I think, if I had a little bit more wisdom, I might have done that differently. Now, hope, I think, is something that I can feel more optimistic about, because that's a virtue, that's a theological virtue. God gives it to us, and we just have to accept it. It's a gift that we have. And I think if we're really to move forward with one another so that nothing can separate us, that nothing can keep us, you might say, as the old song says, from each other and from God, that commitment of God and neighbor that we all need to live out as Christians. Like this story in today's gospel, we need to have an awareness and a preparedness. And I'm not talking about a super preparedness, because I think in this story too about those who were ready with oil in their lamps to go into the wedding feast and those who weren't. There is a side of me that reads this gospel and says, I wish the others were a little more generous. There might have been enough oil for everyone. They didn't want to take that risk. So there's a side of me that's like, generosity seems to be missing here. And yet, in fairness, you've got to say to those who were prepared, hey, you're prepared, we weren't. Why should you bail us out, so to speak? But whether we're prepared or not for what God has in store for us, we need to definitely then ask for a grace to be ready to receive those undeserved graces that you and I think, are being offered all the time. Really, undeserved graces. I'm a big believer in that, and that's a big part of my hope, the way in which I know that I can hope in a God who's not going to be kept from coming at you and me and offering us what we need, especially in moments when it's most needed, so to speak. I do really believe that. And so how can I be open to just receiving those gifts? And in fact, maybe not do all that kind of thinking that says, well, I don't really deserve this, therefore I shouldn't do blah, blah. Accept God's generosity. Be open to the fact that God will be generous and can be generous with you and me, with graces that we didn't think we deserved, but they're there. And so we need to accept them. That, my friends, is a foundation for incredible hope, that our God will keep coming at us and will not be separated from you and from me, that nothing will keep God's graces from us. And so maybe ourselves, as we continue to try to grow in wisdom, know that that wisdom is founded on a hope, and a hope that this gospel is talking about, a hope and expectation that all that it requires for us to be open to that gift of hope is to be ready to receive it. We live in a world where hope is hard to find or hard to see. Wars, whether it be between Israel and Hamas, or Russia and Ukraine, horrible war that almost nobody's reporting from in Sudan, ways in which there are other points of conflict around the world that just get overlooked, ways in which we are not real hopeful about our politics. We have waning hope at times about our economy, even though at times we see signs that it's stronger every quarter. But nonetheless, hope is hard to come by in things of this world. But I think the kind of hope that you and I need in order to deal with the things of this world and to grow in wisdom is a hope that God's offering you and me. And I really do believe that there's nothing that can keep that hope from you and me coming to us from God. We have a God who does say, like that old song, there ain't nothing. There ain't no river wide enough, valley low enough, whatever, river wide enough, that's going to keep me from coming at you with the gift of hope. Let that expectation, openness, and therefore preparedness, prepared because we do, with expectation, have an openness to receive what God's giving us. Let us let that hope of God's grace coming at you and me be the foundation for us to become wiser in the world, with ourselves and one another, so that we can continue to serve both God and neighbor. Amen.